Hello, David Reed.
Hi, Catherine. It's great to have you back in the States for a few weeks.
It's really fun to be doing a podcast in person. David has contributed a number of videos to Living Whole Online, and we have the joy today of looking at, in person, looking at some of the woodworking that he does, which is a release for the high-stress job and life that he has. And that's part of what we do in Living Whole Online, is we look at how can we have balance in our lives. So, David, what is it that you do just kind of as a job, and what's your background?
So my background is in public health, and I went to business school. And currently, for the last more than 12 years, I've been the vice president of medical oncology at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston, which is a very academic place, and it's a place where for people who get cancer who go if they have a recurring cancer or it metastasizes. So we have a lot of our patients on clinical trials. So it's about 50% research, 50% clinical. So it's a very rigorous academic place. So it's a stressful job, but amazing place with an amazing mission. And I feel so lucky to be working there in my role.
So you're doing that. You're also a dad.
I am, yep. And of a couple of teenagers, one who's about to head off to college, who I'll miss. And yeah, it's a lot. I've also been trying to be involved with my community, and specifically in non-motorized transportation and rail trails and kind of cycling work. And I either participate or am involved in over a dozen organizations. So I'm on several nonprofit boards related to that. So
One of the ones that we know about in Living Whole Online is the East Coast Greenway, which you have had an instrumental role in creating this amazing non-motorized trail from the Canadian border down to the tip of Florida.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, so I was on the board of the East Coast Greenway Alliance for 12 years. I was chair of the board for 5 years, but it's really a life passion. I've still stayed involved in it even after that, and I still worked on some things this morning as a volunteer. It's one of my passions. The East Coast Greenway is as Catherine mentioned, a 3,000-mile trail from the Canadian border to Key West. But it's a sister to the Appalachian Trail, but one that will be bikeable and ADA accessible. And there'll be a Living Whole online video about my 9-year adventure down the East Coast Greenway, biking every mile. So that's been great to do that and contribute and give back in other public health type ways, in addition to running this department at the hospital.
So for all these years, you've been balancing family, profession, and doing good in the world. How do you relax?
Well, I have a couple of ways. One, I mentioned cycling, which I like to do, but the other thing that is not unique, but really helps me relax at home, and I try to be at home around more because I have 2 kids that are growing up too fast, but is to do woodworking and make furniture. So I've made a lot of the furniture in my own home. I've made all different styles, including from Queen Anne, shaker, contemporary, and even recently during the COVID era, I've started some live edge epoxy river tables that we'll have a video on. So I've kind of the range. Maybe that's not necessarily a good thing. I haven't settled on one style. I've made whatever kind of pieces. I've replicated some pieces. Some I've developed plans myself. Some I've used some other plans. But I like, being in my shop and making furniture and doing woodworking and figuring things out.
How do you get inspired for a piece of furniture that you want to make?
Well, that's varied. Some I would see a piece like the cherry couch that we'll put a photo in that I thought was very contemporary and had a lot of curves, and like, how do I curve the cherry to make it like that? Others is fairly practical. My wife will say, we need a table this size and we need it here. And this is your deadline to get it done. And others I've made, I would take an open night shop with a bunch of guys and figure out some stuff. And I was working on a 3-drawer kind of shaker table. And then I decided I'm going to make 2 of these. And I make one out of maple and one out of cherry, but I'm going to interweave the parts. So they're going to be like inverses of one another. So different reasons, you know. To me, the river tables, they're just so interesting, and every table is unique. So that's what I really like about them. So.
I've been looking at the videos that you've already put on the site of the river tables. Where did you get that idea?
I had heard about a river table from someone. Then there were a couple of, you know, I'm not the first on that. There were a couple of YouTube videos. I then said, all right, there needs to be a video from A to Z of how to do this. So I was determined to do. Anyone could make a river table and follow these steps. And I made plenty of mistakes doing them, but I figured it out, and they're really great. And a lot of people try to buy them. It's like, well, how much do you make them for? Or I don't sell. I've never sold a piece of furniture in my life, and I don't want my hobby to become my job. You know, I'm fortunate that I have another well-paying income and profession with, again, a great mission, but I don't want that to become my job. So I'll either give the stuff away. I've made a bunch of small river serving trays that I have for Christmas gifts for next year for my family when we can see each other in the post-COVID era. So I give stuff away. We have a sleigh bed that you have in Mallorca, you and David have, that you moved with from Beacon Hill. So it really just provides me joy just doing it and getting it done. And I learn, and it's very, very therapeutic. And I have a full shop in my basement now, so I can do most of the things I need to down there.
Well, I think it would be fun to go into your shop and see that. Can we do that?
Oh yeah, we can, sure. So welcome to my workshop. This is where a lot, but not all of the stuff happens, and I know we wanted to show this, so let me show a few different things. As mentioned, when I made the 4-poster bed, I had some finials that I turned on a lathe, and these were the extra ones, or the ones that I didn't like, so I made 6 of them and used 4 of them. When I made the curved cherry couch upstairs, I mentioned laminating and curving, and this is a couple of extra pieces that I did, so you can see how strong that is. Like, there's no way you can even, once something's laminated like that, it's going to stay that way forever. So this is thin layer of cherry with wood glue around a form, and then you finish it off. So you can
I see a different wood in here.
No, that's actually cherry, just a lighter version. So there's 3 different pieces that make up that.
And this is the one where you said it took a few dozen times to...
Yeah, I made several dozen of these, and each of them took a day with a lot of clamps over them, to make sure it stayed in that form, around the form till it dried. This is just a little biopsy of my shop. Here we have some of the different color epoxies that I use in my river table. This bluish green, this pink here. this darker blue, black, so we use those.
And can you show us the tray that
Sure.
you made using these?
Yeah, this is one of the river serving trays that I made that I'm getting ready to wrap up as a gift. It has rubber feet on it. It has different handles. These are just drawer handles that I got at the local hardware store for people who want to change their drawers. I just made them into handles that people could pick up the tray for your crackers and things like that you want to serve. Here's a couple of interesting things where we didn't talk about. I made some end grain cutting boards, and this is all through, and this is meant to be an optical cube pattern. That this actually took a lot of time, a lot of cutting and a lot of gluing, but they came out really good, and I routed some handles in it. Here's another end grain cutting board with a different optical pattern that I made. And I made another one that I think I gave away or is in use. Here's some wood that's going to turn into some river tables, some rough black walnut, and that's a clamp. As woodworkers always say, you can never have enough clamps, and there's been no truer statement that you can never have enough clamps when you're doing a woodworking project, because you always need more. Here's a couple of pieces of black walnut that's in bad shape, but it's perfect for a river table. So I'll clean off that bark and clean it up and make it into a river table at some point this summer. Here's an interesting piece that I'm doing for someone who did some design work for me, and I told her that I'd make a river table for her, and she has a specific pattern. This is a crotch. This is called with this type of formation from the tree, it's called a piece of crotch wood, and we're going to cut it out and make it a river table. And she's an artist, so she was very clear on how she wanted it marked up and made. But this is a piece of crotch, so I'll do that for her. Here's another piece that'll be a table. So this is really where kind of it happens. And under here is my table saw. On the other side of the shop, which you can't see, I have a planer and a joiner, a band saw there, and I have routers, so pretty much, and then a dust collection system up behind the camera.
So I want to just return to these,
Yes.
because I don't know if the camera can really appreciate these, but in person, these are just extraordinary. And not only do you have a visual of the optical illusion when you approach it, but when you get really close, what's going on in here, these little triangles?
So the way to make it, give it this pattern, and especially for the top of the cubes, which is maple, so this is done with different color woods. Cherry is the brown, the darker one is black walnut, and the maple, to get it that way, is actually 4 different pieces of maple. And you can see there's some maple are lighter than others, but you glue that together and cut it. It's actually a fairly prolonged process, and you have to follow all the steps, but this one came out pretty good with an optical pattern in it like cubes.
And this one is really...
Yeah, this one is really pretty. This one came out just different, cutting the cherry and the black walnut into different size woods and gluing it up. But this is all end grain. It's not just veneer. It goes right through. It's the same on both sides. Same for both of these. They're fairly heavy.
How did you get the idea to do these?
I did see a YouTube video from some guy, and it wasn't in English. He was in the Ukraine. So I was like, that's really cool. So I, took measurements and just made a few. I made it with my friend E.B. We made a couple of these together, which was fun.
So you watched a video that was not in English.
Yeah.
That was teaching you how to make
Right.
something that you'd never made before. And that's very complex.
Yeah, yep, that's really how. That's why I hope with the living whole videos people watch, they'll try to replicate some of my projects. Um, Plagiarism is the highest form of flattery, especially when it comes to YouTube videos or woodworking. So I hope people copy any ideas that I could share. My river table video, I think, is probably one of the best with each step lined out, and each level of sandpaper. Like, how do you do it to make a perfect finish on it?
Talk to me, now that we're in this space where so much artistry happens, talk to me about how this gets you into a relaxed state.
You can really, to me, it's something that I think about, what am I going to do? Like, how can I use my creative juices to figure it out? Not just to go home or use, like sometimes I'll be down here in the middle of the night, especially when the kids were younger. I'd make sure that I did my work in the middle of the night. As I mentioned, I try not to use power tools unless someone's around or in the house, because it's fairly dangerous. In fact, table saws. But I'll come down here, figure out something. For an example, this morning when I woke up, I mentioned these bike tables that I'm going to work on, and something was bugging me yesterday that wasn't going to work, and I think I figured it out this morning, just kind of random thoughts. But then I write it down, or I see if I have the right hardware or the right ways to do it.
So the middle of the night, huh?
Yeah, the middle of the night, yeah. Yeah. I've cobbled my sleep disorder into a very good hobby.
So we're in this really beautiful wooded part of Massachusetts with all kinds of different trees around us. Are there particular woods that have really drawn you over the years that you've really liked to work with?
That's a great question. So I've used pretty much every type of wood. I've made things out of red oak and cherry and maple and black walnut. I think my favorite wood to work with is probably cherry, because I made a dining room table with French cabriole legs that I curved out of cherry wood, and that was beautiful. I've also made a contemporary couch out of cherry wood, which I also find beautiful. One of the probably more complicated projects I did was a table with curved fronts and curved sides that has 6 different types of wood in it, including bird's eye maple oval on the front, and some banding that has ebony in it, and very, very white maple, and here's a picture of that we'll see. So it also has, I decided to go with a marble top on it just to be different, because the marble matched the color. It was for my wife's birthday, and the marble matched the room that it was going in, and it fit perfectly. Normally, when you're picking out woods, you always want to pick out the straightest grain and the one, that's more, that's really more perfect. But that's actually opposite now with my river tables. You want to find the woods that have knots in it, that are curved, that aren't necessarily straight. So it's really kind of changed things for me as I made some river tables. The scraps that used to go into the fire pit are now, beautiful serving trays or tables. So, and you take the bark off it.
And so one of the river tables is right here in front of us. And so I see what you mean here, and I can see some of the blue that creates the sense of river here goes right along in this little groove here.
Yeah, that had a crack in it, a natural crack from growth, and which is really added to the table. So I filled that in with epoxy too to make it perfectly flat. And then I have another table where it's like kind of a tributary that is pink and purple that I made, and here's a picture of it here we can show. But the river tables are really kind of amazing. You do it with the less perfect wood, the wood with knots, and you that you have to clean up, and even rotted wood, as long as you get rid of the rot, it really comes out really nicely.
Wow.
Yeah, and right now, interestingly, I'm working on a table downstairs that I made from my neighbor. Took down a bunch of oak trees, and he was just gonna get rid of them, and so I grabbed a couple, had them milled up, and I'm gonna make a table from wood from my next door neighbor who gave me some. It has to dry out a long time, and but it's dry and very stable, so I'll make a table out of that.
So when you say you had it milled, what does that mean?
Well, it comes out, when they take down a tree, it comes out at the log. It has to go through a log cutting, large sawmill at the local mill, and then it comes into slabs, and it has to dry out, and then you have to dress it up and make it flat and things. But I've even thinking about some tables now where I'd actually leave the saw cuts on it, to look more rustic. So again, I've made all different types, from fine Queen Anne furniture, Martha Washington lolling chair, a replica of a chair that she has that I had made, and also again, Queen Anne shaker, really kind of simple but very practical furniture, and stuff I've made up myself.
You've talked a few times about some aspects of the furniture are curved.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
So when on this contemporary couch that I made a form. I cut thin slabs of cherry, bent it around the form with water, and then glued it up and left it overnight. And then I had to do this over, several dozen times to get the slats in these chairs. And they're extremely strong when you laminate wood like that.
Wow. Several dozen times.
Yeah, several that, yeah.
How did you originally learn about woodworking?
Well, my dad was a Finnish carpenter when he, kind of part-time, and I needed in my first apartment, I needed an entertainment center, and I couldn't find anything that fit for what was then a stereo or CDs, so I actually just built it, and then it just kept going. I needed a bed, and then, it was just, again, then I found it to be really therapeutic to have my own furniture that I made, in my own colors and where I want it and size, and just also trying different things. So
did you learn from your dad, or did you learn from
other
people?
No, he, I took a class at Boston Center for Adult Education. My dad passed when I was in my early 20s, so I took a class in my late 20s at Boston Center for Adult Education, woodworking, and then just started the process. But there you had to bring in your stuff every week, and I just decided I wanted to do it a little bit more formally.
And so what did that mean?
So that meant buying some tools myself and accumulating them over time, getting a big enough basement that I could build my shop down there with the right air filtration systems, so you're not breathing in sawdust. And also I did take at the Furniture Institute of Massachusetts under Phil Lowe a few more advanced classes. I built a chest of drawers for my son that has 78 handcrafted dovetails in it. So I learned to make dovetails. That'll really make you an expert if you handcraft dovetails so they fit perfectly together in the drawers. And so that helped. And I made a cabinet. I went to the Yestermore School up in Vermont for a week, and so I've had, different experiences. Most of the stuff's made below, but I also like learning from others. I mentioned I took an open shop at the Furniture Institute of Massachusetts, and the people there, we'd run different concepts by one another, and sometimes it was great to have an extra pair of hands just to hold things, but it was a great community where we get together and share ideas and say, well, this is what I want to do. How would you do it? and it was more about the discussion, so.
I was wondering about that because some of the pieces of furniture that you've made are really huge. And so I was wondering if sometimes you need an extra pair of hands.
Yeah, you
to
do.
be there with you.
The sleigh bed that's in your apartment in Spain that took, sometimes it'd be two extra guys. That was hundreds of pounds, and it was huge. A panel sleigh bed where I used cherry for the panels and maple for the panels and cherry for the bed. So, and then the hardware associated with it.
Uh-huh. We recently took that bed apart and put it back together because we made a little move, and the people that we had helping us, we could tell one of them was a carpenter who really apprecied the craftsmanship of that bed. He was kind of in awe of it as he was taking it apart and then putting it back together.
Oh, well, thanks. It's nice to hear. That's why I do the stuff, and we actually, that's one of the few pieces that it was so big we didn't have room for it here, but I built a 4-poster bed for our room, so it's great that it's still being used over in Spain.
Yeah. So the 4-poster bed, talk to me about that. What was special about making a 4-poster bed?
I always liked the idea and style. It's one I designed, and I had used a lathe to make finials for the top of it. I made actually a couple extra and those are down in my wood shop too. But it's also the footboard of that. I specifically picked that board out, the grain to match the arc of it. So you'll see in the picture the grain of the footboard matches the kind of the arc of what I cut out as the footboard. So that's made of cherry.
There's so many aspects of what you do that have a lot of artisticness in them, and one of the many things I appreciate about you is you have all these different areas of expertise. You're vice president at Dana-Farber with an MBA and an MPH, very focused on making sure that a big organization runs as efficiently as possible and fulfills its mission. And then you have all of this philanthropy that you do, all of these boards that you're on, and then you're a dad of teenagers, and then you have this place that feels to me like a place where you can channel your artistic nature.
Yeah, that's really helpful for me, I guess, psychologically to stay grounded and do something where it's just me figuring it out, and I don't have to talk to people or get a group together or referee a space discussion or it's woodworking has been wonderful. Yeah, really a joy. I'm very lucky. But again, we're almost out of room here, so I'll figure out some ways to be able to make more furniture. A couple of tables I'm building downstairs, they're going to be bike tables, and you'll see them hopefully in an upcoming video from finishing them. I'm thinking about donating them to some of the bike advocacy organizations that I'm on the boards with, or we're on the boards with, as kind of a donation that they can kind of auction them off. One interesting fact about this house we're living in here in the town of Topsfield is we found this town because of a woodworking project. So we used to live in Salem right on the Marblehead line, and the church where we went, they were trying to raise some money, so they asked for auction items. And so I said I will make a whale's tail wine rack here and donate it, and they can put it up for auction, which I did. And part of the deal was that I would bring it to whoever bought it and set it up for them. So we sold it. I don't think I'd ever been to Topsfield except maybe to the fair. And we saw that it was such a great town, so that started looking for a house here, and that was because of a woodworking project that I donated that was auctioned off, and the people who bought it were from this town.
Wow. Why is it called a whale's tail wine rack?
Because of it's a very, very vertical wine rack that I have a couple different versions that holds 11 or 12 bottles of wine, but the end of it, to make it stable, flares out and looks like a whale's tail. And that's one I designed myself. So so I hopefully appropriately named it. We'll see if others think it's a whale's tail, but it allows you to store wine in a very narrow area.
And stable.
Stable, yeah.
At least one of your videos of the river tables includes your son.
Oh yeah, Brandon, it was hugely helpful, and he was very into it. All of these river tables, you see it in the river train, we made during COVID, so we couldn't do much, and it was a great time for he and I to spend time together and learn about it. And especially he liked, after you build the table and pour the epoxy and you have to wait 3 days for it to cure, just taking the form off and seeing what you've created and how it came out. So yeah, Brandon was a great help. And just given the size of some of them, I don't like to, whenever I'm using the table saw, I always like people to be home in the house here. And especially, like down in the shop, because you don't want any kind of accidents I don't use the equipment alone or when someone's not home. But Brandon was always there to help me with the larger pieces to make sure that they got through. Another set of hands is always a good idea. With some power tools, I highly recommend that you don't do the work alone. It's always safer to have someone else there.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. I wouldn't want my hobby that I use to de-stress me to cause a lot of stress if I had an accident. But fortunately, knock on wood or epoxy, you don't.
One of the reasons I love having you be part of International Integrators and part of Living Whole Online is because the way you live your life is very much in concert with the philosophy of living whole. You have this very rich professional life, this very rich philanthropic life, this very rich life of creating something of beauty that's artistic and also relaxes you. This very rich family life, lots of family trips with your bicycles and many wonderful adventures that all of you do. And so I'm just wondering, is there anything else you'd like to share with me while we're having this conversation?
Well, I think what we're trying to do with Living Whole is to show the diversity of what people can do to improve their lives, whether it's be with diet or relaxation or with hobbies or with travel. My bicycle travel that you mentioned, that can be very stressful when you're out like on a long 80-mile day if it's raining or something like that. But it's so rewarding to do that type of trip. That's really arduous and hard, and that you did it, and it makes you feel good, and you've gotten so much exercise. So it's not all about relaxation. It's about the different things people do, like developing a lot of the great recipes we have on Living Whole Online is not necessarily easy, and you have to make decisions and substitutes and make life choices. But some of the meals that my daughter has made, and especially she's into the desserts, how can she make vegan desserts, which is impressive. It was really inspirational. So I really enjoy that.
Yeah, Stephanie and David have made a little team where I think you're the cameraman and Stephanie is the
and taster, cameraman and taster.
Oh, and taster. Okay. and Stephanie is the teacher.
Yeah.
And she has really taken the project of learning how to veganize some of her very favorite dessert recipes to a whole new level.
Yeah, I would say that she definitely has. Yeah, yeah. Her vegan brownies are out of this world, and she has several other desserts that she's worked on. So, yeah, I feel very fortunate as both her dad and the taster.
David, being in your workshop just gives me a whole new aspect of what it is that it takes to put something beautiful together, whether it's the bed that I sleep in Mallorca, or this amazing river table, or some of these other beautiful pieces of furniture that we've been able to enjoy. And in addition, your biking videos and the videos that Stephanie's brought forth, they're just adding so much to Living Whole Online. So thank you so much, and I'm so very much looking forward to the bike table videos and other videos that you've got in your mind to create.
Oh yeah, we've got a few ideas of contributing. That's why it's so great to be part of this project. Just again, the diversity of the content that we're producing. You know, every aspect, relaxation, food, you know, hobbies, travel. You know, and who knows what we'll come up with in the future.
Well, thank you so much.
Welcome.